Hello, everyone. An invasion in the Middle East changed my video plans for today, but that change is necessary. In the early morning hours of October 7th, 2023, life in Israel would be forever changed as rockets from Hamas in Gaza rained down on Israel. It was a total surprise, since Hamas had somehow infiltrated Israel's seemingly untouchable intelligence security system. Thousands in Israel have died. Hamas specifically targeted women, children, including babies, and the elderly. Reports have stated that many babies were decapitated. We are also being told that many, including Americans, have been taken hostage. I don't even want to think about what I believe things are like for any Hamas hostage. It seems to me death would be better. Amidst all of this, I've been truly bothered by all the news I've seen lately, especially scenes in big cities around the United States, with scores of people carrying signs and screaming support for the Palestinians and saying Israel is the foreigner in this land. Before I continue, I want to make it clear that not all Palestinians belong to Hamas. Hamas is a radical all-or-nothing group that is connected to Iran and shouts, "Death to Israel, death to America." All Palestinians do not subscribe to that, but most believe the Jews have invaded their land. For Christians, the Bible is very clear that we must always, in all circumstances, support Israel. That isn't a choice, because the Jews are God's chosen people, and the land of Israel is the place God chose to put them. Today, I'd like to share two things. First, the true history of who owns Israel, and second, where in the Bible it says we Christians must support Israel. The history of Israel begins when Abram is told to leave Ur and settle in the land of Israel, where God changed his name to Abraham. The entire Old Testament is about the Jews and their time in Israel. Here's where problem number one comes in. God sent the Jews into slavery in Egypt because they wouldn't obey him. He then chose Moses to lead them back to Israel. But in chapter 1 of the book of Joshua, Moses has died, and God commands Joshua to, quote, "cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give them, to the Israelites. You will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them," end quote. So, there is no doubt the land belongs to the Jews. But the land was, at that time, filled with Canaanites. And God told the Jews in Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 5, the very reason he will destroy the Canaanites, quote, "It is on account of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is going to drive them out before you," end quote. And in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2, God says, quote, "destroy them totally, make no treaty with them, and show them no mercy." Did this happen? No. We learn in Joshua chapter 9, verse 14, that the Gibeonites heard of the triumphs of the Israelites and tricked them with the idea of servanthood. Verse 14 of that chapter says, quote, "They," meaning the Israelites, "did not inquire of the Lord, but made a treaty of peace with the Gibeonites to let them live," end quote. Thus, wicked Canaanites remained in the land of Israel with the Jews. This is one big reason there are conflicts today. Folks, you don't ever win when you disobey the Lord. Now, let's go on to the second reason for the present conflict. The Jews occupied the land of Israel from then on, that is, until the reign of Hadrian over the Roman Empire from 117 to 138 AD. Hadrian hated the Jews after they rebelled in 132 AD. Over 500,000 of them were killed at that time. From 132 to 135, Hadrian suppressed the Jews, both religiously and politically, finally forcing them out of Israel. He then changed the name of Israel to Palestine. The Palestinians quickly built a temple to the Roman god Jupiter over the ruins of the Jewish temple. The Jews never forgot God had given them the land. In 1917, the United States supported a document called the Balfour Document that favored a Jewish national homeland in Palestine. However, Palestine was then under the control of the British, who opposed this. Following the horrors of the Holocaust, many Jews were sent to relocation camps on the island of Cyprus in the Mediterranean Sea, while others remained in Europe. But all wanted a homeland where they could finally be free. An old passenger ship, renamed the Exodus, was bought by a Jewish underground group called Haganah, who made arrangements to transport Jews who had survived the Holocaust from Europe to Palestine. When the ship reached territorial waters, the British rammed the ship and returned it to France. But the passengers, all 4,500 of them, refused to disembark, and France then refused to remove the passengers from the ship. Global outrage turned against the British, and worldwide, people felt the Jews should have a place in their homeland. Over 60,000 Jews were then successfully returned to Palestine. On November 29, 1947, a vote was scheduled to create a Jewish state in Palestine. But war broke out between the Jews and the Palestinians. No one expected the Jews to be victorious. No one. But with the help of God, they were. On May 15, 1948, independence came, and Israel became a nation once again. The nation it had been since God gave the land to the Jews. It was a man by the name of Hadrian who took that land away from them. This incredible story was immortalized in a movie in 1960 entitled Exodus, starring Paul Newman and Eva Marie Saint. My high school world history teacher took us to see it. Its title song won the Academy Award that year, and its words fit, quote, "This land is mine. God gave this land to me," end quote. The land of Israel does not belong to the Palestinians and never did. Now that you know the history, here are the commands of God to all Christians to forever support Israel. Genesis chapter 12, verse 3 says, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 12 to 14 says, This is the plague with which the Lord will strike all nations that fought against Israel. Their flesh will rot while they are standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. The wealth of all surrounding nations will be collected, and a similar plague will strike all animals in the camps. Joel chapter 3, verses 2 and 3 says, I will gather all nations. There I will enter into judgment against them concerning my inheritance, my people Israel. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 20 says, I will punish all who oppress them. Zechariah 12, verse 9 says, On that day I will set out to destroy all nations that attack Jerusalem. Zechariah chapter 8, verse 7 says, I will save my people from the countries of the east and the west. Any questions now about standing up for Israel? We are one of the countries of the west that God will save the Jews from if we don't support them. Thanks for listening. Psalm 122 verse 6 says, Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Please do that. See you Thursday.